Welcome back, golfers. Today we're going to start a new segment on my channel, King Pro Golf, called Difficult Lies. Now this segment I'm going to put out once a month. It's going to give you situations that occur on the golf course, and I'm going to show you how to create a good setup for it, make good decisions through that lie, so you come up with the best results in those lies. So before we get into all the instruction, I want to reach out to my supporters. Number one, you as viewers, thank you guys for watching these videos. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. It just helps me to grow as an instructor. It helps you as a viewer get better at this game that we love. And I'd like to thank Lone Tree Golf Course for giving me a facility to teach at and grow my instructional business. I'd also like to thank TaylorMade Golf for putting me on staff. Been on staff with them since 2014. They're a great company, putting out great products every year. And a new business that's helping support me as a golf instructor is Zack Active. Zack Active creates high quality men's, women's, and kids apparel for not only golf, but also normal day-to-day life and active wear. So if you're into golf, you're into training, you're into outdoors, they got something for you. I'm going to leave a link to all these businesses that support me down below in the description. If you click on those, you can go check them out. So the first lie we're going to talk about today is the downhill lie. Now this one gives a lot of people trouble, so I thought it'd be a good one to start out this series. When you come into this situation, what you want to do is first get your setup right. So when we're in setup, I always like to start like most pros do, with their feet together. And what we want to feel on a downhill lie is a little bit more weight towards our left side. So our hips and our shoulders are going to tilt with the slope. That allows us to swing down the level of the surface, rather than if you're over here and fighting it, where your hips level out and your shoulders level out. That will make it so when you come into impact, you're actually going to be contacting the ground first. You're not going to be able to get that divot in front, and your compression and contact and impact are going to suffer from it. So when you come into it, feet together, aim that club at your target, get your feet a little bit wider so you have a nice some good stability. Hips tilted with the surface, shoulders tilted with the surface. Now, when you're taking it back, my weight right now is feeling about 90% left. So I could probably pick up this foot, it's fairly light. So as I take it back, my weight will shift a little bit back, but it's not going to shift back where it normally does back there. It's going to shift probably into the middle, and then I'm going to shift it back into that forward side and keep my level of my hips and my shoulders driving through this golf ball so I don't catch it on the upswing. I want to catch it, I want to think of, I had something sitting right here in front of me. I'm going to be able to hit down and catch that after I make impact with the golf ball. So let's do this. A little bit wider stance, hips tilted with the slope, shoulders tilted with the slope. And there you go. So I made good contact, I made a divot in front of the golf ball, and that's really what we're looking for. So one aspect of downhill lies you don't hear much about is because you're hitting on a downhill surface, we might think the ball might go further because we're de-lofting the club. But in reality, what's actually going to happen is when we hit that golf shot, instead of giving that upward angle of ball flight, our angle of ball flight is actually going to get lowered. And if you're hitting to a surface that's level with where you're at, and then you have a lower trajectory rather than a higher trajectory, you're actually going to hit it shorter. So if you think of the surface continuing, and then if the green surface is up here and you're down here, you got to use that difference in the height to the green is almost like you're hitting an uphill shot. So you might be having to add a half a club, maybe even 2 clubs if it's severely downhill and you're not going to be able to get the height you were going to get from before. The other thing to know is that your ball is not going to spin as much, and it's going to be coming down at a flatter trajectory, so it's not going to stop as fast on the green. So take that into account for where you're trying to land the ball. You might have to land it just in front of the green. You might have to land it in the front part of the green and let it run up to the hole, depending where the hole is. So the second difficult lie we're going to talk about today is a pretty common one. It's just hitting out of the rough. And this is one we have every single time we play. Some rough that we play is deeper, some rough is pretty light. So we're going to kind of talk about what we would do in like a deeper situation. If this ball's sitting down there pretty good, and you can barely see it right there, and how are we going to get that out of that lie and at least advance it towards our target. So when we approach a deep rough lie, what we want to first do is assess, what do we have to carry in front of us? What can I get out of this? What club am I going to need to use to get out of this? Because if it's sitting real far down, you might have to use more loft in order to get it up and out. You're not going to come into a lie like this and be able to go, oh, I'm just going to hit 3-wood, knock it down there, because it's probably not going to go very far. You're probably end up hitting it, 50 feet in front of you. So assess the lie, what club can we use? Typically always try to go towards using more loft than you think to get out of this, unless you're trying to carry something. If not, if you are trying to carry something, maybe look at laying up. Set up to this, we're going to start again with our feet together. We're going to get our ball position further back in the stance, which will allow us to catch it on the steeper part of our swing. If we put the ball further forward in our stance, we're going to catch a lot more grass behind that ball, and it's going to affect what the club does speed-wise. It could turn the face over if it's really thick, or if you catch a thick piece of grass, it can turn the face over, and we're not going to get it as clean. So what we want to do, get set up, move that ball back in the stance, so you're going to increase your angle of attack. So the top of that grip, the butt of the grip, will always aim to the inside part of the left leg. And when we come to impact, that's where we want it as well. We want it the inside part of that left leg, or on that left leg at impact. And you can see how steep that angle of attack is coming into impact. So a lot of forward angle, meaning we're going to catch it very steeply down. We're not going to catch a lot of grass behind. We're just dropping the club right on top of that back of that ball, and then it'll pop up and get out of that tough lie. Another aspect of this we got to think about is we don't want to try to get to the top and then throw our club at the golf ball, because what that's going to end up doing is shallowing the club. We want to be able to create the lag that we've been talking about in our past videos. If you haven't seen those, go check them out. And we also want to make sure when we come to impact, our hips and our weight are left. The more weight we have left, the more weight we can drive into this golf ball and help it get out of this situation. So let your hips, let your feet work, let your hips open up, let your body weight move to the left, and get your hands forward. We don't want our hands back there, that's counterproductive. We want our hands forward and on our lead side. So we're a nice strong position. That shaft's going right up towards that shoulder, and we're gonna hit down on it. Let's try this out. So I'm gonna come into it, feet together, ball position back, hands pressed to the inside part of that lead leg. All right, so that one got out towards my target. And when you're hitting this golf shot, try to focus on getting a good turn, good load, making that transition with that legs, and then just getting to that finish. And when you focus on getting to the finish, it'll help you keep your momentum working through that deep grass, rather than if you're just focusing on that hit. When you come down, you might just end up giving up into it after you hit that ball, and then that grass is going to affect it and affect your speed going through, and you're not going to get it out as far as you would hope to. So the final lie we're going to talk about is an uphill lie near the green with a tight surface. Typically when you see this, you're going to see the grain of the grass working away from you, which makes it a little bit harder to hit your golf shot, because if you get it just behind it, the lead edge of the wedge typically digs in, and you just slide right into those grains. And if your ball's in front of those grains, then you're gonna hit it heavy pretty quick and you leave it right in front of you. That's not the shot we like. I'm gonna show you how you typically would hit this shot, and then I'm gonna show you an alternative way that you can practice that I feel like is an easier way to hit it. So the normal way that people are taught how to hit this golf shot is you grab your wedge, you get set up, you put some lean into that surface, because that surface is sitting about like this. So you would lean into that surface, and then from there you just let your hands come back and then work through, and you just push up against that surface. And because that ball is, you have more ball exposed in that shot, you're pretty much just going to try to hit into the ball, and then you're just going to enter into the ground after. So let's try that one out just so we can see it. Hitting a wedge here, a little 60-degree wedge. And you can see when I do that, I made a divot. You know, I entered the ground afterwards, and because my hands were ahead of the golf ball, yes, it will work. But in those circumstances when the ground is wet, the lie is really tight, and that grain's going into you, it's going to be very difficult to get that shot perfect. You could hit it thin, you're definitely not going to want to hit it heavy, but it's just a surface that's tough to deal with, because you're not able, because you turn into your club's now turning into a shovel rather than letting us use the bounce. So as an alternative method to the lean and stab method, I'm going to show you guys a method that I like using that allows us to make the ground a little bit more friendly to us, allows us to hit a shot I think is a little bit easier. It does feel a little bit different because of the weight shift, but you know, success-wise, I've found this to be a higher percentage when you get the practice done with it than leaning and stabbing into the grass. So before I was hitting that 60-degree wedge, it's usually the one that everybody grabs. So when we change, we're actually going to use, you know, I have a 54 and a pitching wedge. I'm actually going to try doing it with a pitching wedge right now. And the main thing we're going to start doing is use less loft instead of more loft. So first thing you're going to do, ball position will be fairly neutral. You're going to set up to it, and now I'm going to put all my weight onto my right foot. I can pick up this foot and kind of hold it. That's the first part. Pick up the foot, hold the foot, make sure all that weight's off that back foot. Now you're going to take your hip and you're going to shove it forward, because what that's going to do is allow your spine tilt to be working with the slope, and it's going to bring your shoulder line with the slope as well. So you're balancing on that back foot, hips press forward, a lot of positive spine tilt. You can see where my spine is aiming out here towards my foot. And because it's an uphill lie, I'm adding loft to the club naturally by leaning back. So when the shaft goes this way, we're adding loft. So you might be hitting a pitching wedge, but it has the loft of a sand wedge or maybe even a 60, depending on how steep that slope is. All right, hips kick forward. A lot of positive spine tilt, all that weight's on that back foot. Now we're just going to let the club work down the slope. We're going to leave our weight right where it is and then work through it. And you can see when I do that, there's not a big weight shift. I'm just stabilizing, but it allows me to hit, instead of turning the club into a shovel, I'm now using the bounce of the club. You know, I can sit here and take practice swings like that and just clip the ground. And it's the same length swing we would probably take with that sand wedge, that 60-degree wedge. It will stop fairly quick because we're giving it some loft. But when we're doing this method, it does make it so we can hit a little bit behind it and not get stuck in the turf. So try out that method, practice it. You know, none of these methods I would do without any practice, but you gotta bring them out sometime. You're gonna get them out on the golf course. That's why we call them difficult lies. Golf's full of them. If you find these videos helpful, hit that subscribe button down below. Check out my links for the products that I described earlier. I'll be coming out with a new video once a month on difficult lies to help you get better in your game of golf. Remember, if your feet aren't working, your swing's not working. I'll catch you guys next time.